I think what excites me the most is our ability to do shows across the board at different scales. Like it's just a whole nother level that we have right now. And we've really
Yeah,
got a good process going with live events with all of our opcos and
that's
really
fantastic.
integrating pyrotechnico and yeah, just trying to maximize, we call it the 360 approach that we have. And
Yeah.
like we said earlier, the service stuff, it's kind of what we hang our hat on. I think we're pretty good at
It's
it.
I'm the VP of sales, so my whole job is growing business, right? That's literally what I do.
Yeah.
Producing good shows, growing business, and best way to grow business is produce good shows. And I
Yeah.
think the most exciting thing for me is the one thing I love about working at Delicate and ipso facto live events is we just have great people. Like this is the first place I've ever worked that I just like everybody I work with. They're good at their
Yeah.
job. They give a shit, and they have a sense. And I like that everyone really has the same focus and we're driven to make great shows happen. And then the other part of that too, which is obviously Kit and Kindle, is clients. Man, we meet new clients every day and they're always some exciting new challenge. And I love when we work with a new client that doesn't know us, comes in, they're trepidatious at first, like, I hope you guys don't fuck this up. And we kill it. And they're like, man,
Yeah.
I don't want to go anywhere without you. Like, I love you
Yeah.
guys.
Hello, you're on Gears of Gear. You're not on it, but you're listening to it or watching it wherever you may be. And I, of course, am your not so illustrious host, Marcel. And thanks for joining me today. One of the things I forgot to mention yesterday on my intro was that we have launched a new website. And if you haven't seen it yet, why not? Gearsofgear.com. We are using some pretty new technology for this site. It is built really for a podcasting journey, a podcast company, podcast guests, podcast sponsors. It is built for this exact purpose. And so, one of the things that it has that I think is really great is a new intake form or a guest sign up process where you can select your dates and upload some information, answer a few questions, give us a picture. It just collects all of those details. So one of the really cool things it does after that is once your podcast actually launches, after you've recorded with me for, hopefully not too painful hour or so, then it actually connects your bio information and all of your details and your picture back to the episode. So you can always see the episode and then you can see who was on the episode, which is amazing. We've always wanted to do that. It was never easy. Now it is. And so that's one of the things that's included. Another thing that's really great is there's links to all of our show sponsors, whom, of course, I'm very grateful for because I don't really make any money from doing this podcast. But it does cover our expenses, and it certainly pays for, our illustrious, wonderful, beautiful producer, Sarah. And so thank you to our sponsors, of course. And I'm very happy to have this new site up. We're going to keep updating it. And again, check it out. Even drop a review. We do have, it collects our reviews, whether it's from the platforms or from the website. So you can drop a review in there. It's always helpful and we appreciate it. And that's about it. That's all I wanted to tell you about. I forgot to tell you yesterday and I meant to. So today we actually have two guests on the episode. We don't do this very often, but we're doing it today. And part of the reason is because Delicate Productions, who has just become a new sponsor for us over the past few weeks, has provided us two of their leaders at Delicate. So I'm going to read you their bio here, which is a little confusing because it's two people, but we'll get to it. No problem. So, of course, as I mentioned, Delicate Productions is one of our newest sponsors. Brian Boyt is the Chief Operating Officer of Delicate, overseeing strategy, operations, and business development. With 25 plus years in live events and audiovisual production, he brings expertise from both leadership and touring roles. Having worked with artists like Maroon 5, Jimmy Eat World, and Yeah Yeah Yeahs, And that's it. It ended right there. So I guess it's having worked with artists like Maroon 5, Jimmy Eat World, and Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Secondly, we have Sonny Sonny Dyon. Sorry, Sonny, I messed this one up too. VP of Sales, where he helps deliver world-class audio, lighting, and video solutions for concerts, tours, corporate events, and experiential activations. A U.S. Air Force veteran and award-winning broadcast journalist, Sonny has built a diverse career spanning live event production, film, and strategic business development. He has held leadership roles with major AV companies and served on the board of directors for the Central Florida Film Festival. Welcome, gentlemen. Gentlemen, welcome to Geese of Gear.
I had to look around. I'm like, are you talking to me?
It sounded like a radio promo. Yeah,
that was great.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're a gentleman too, Sonny. I don't even know you yet. I already pronounced your name wrong in the intro. How do you pronounce your last name?
Dyon. It's
Dion.
funny because
So
everyone asks.
That was one of the three versions.
It's so common that my kids grew up and we almost think our last name is Dyon, D-Y-O-N, because because the way it's spelled, people say Dyon, whatever else. So anytime someone says, "What's your last name?" I say Dyon, D-Y-O-N. That's my last name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you said Dion to me, obviously I'd spell D-I-O-N probably, but so I pronounced it probably three different ways, and hopefully Sarah will edit two of them out and I won't look like such a dick. But thank you guys for joining in, and especially thank you for becoming one of our most recent sponsors. We appreciate it very much. And I love the brand. I love Smoother. I love that you guys have the domain delicate.com. I remember when Live Events was acquiring your company and there were discussions about, well, does the name change to Live Events? And I'm like, you can't give away that web domain and give away that name. It's such an amazing name. I love it. And
we get emails like probably once a month where someone's like, I'm interested in acquiring your domain name. And I'm like, don't be, because you're not getting it.
Yeah. Well, there were times like during COVID that the name might have sold for more than the company, it's such a crazy good name. Like I could see, Charmin or someone like that owning it, like some big P&G or something owning it and paying a couple $1 million to acquire it, because it's that good of a name, it's not quite penis.com, which I heard sold for like $10 million or something, but it's up there.
I missed that in the bubble.
Yeah, that's true. It's amazing what people will pay for domain names. Like I've had to buy a couple because it just matched a brand that I had already started and stuff. And I think I paid $6,000 once for one. But I don't know that I'd pay much more than that. Even that one hurt. I was like, it's just a domain name. Like, call it something else. Put a hyphen in it, something. And so anyways, but again, thank you guys so much. And, one thing we were discussing a little bit before we went on air is most of our listeners, I believe, who are interested in Delicate will have already heard the Smoother podcast we did a couple months ago. I don't recall the number, but you can go search for Smoother on Geese of Gear and you'll find it. And it was a great podcast. Obviously, Smoother's quite a personality and had some good fishing stories too. And but so I don't know that I think it's necessary for us to go all the way back to the beginning of time on Delicate. We all know that basically Delicate was formed around Supertramp, and he was holding Supertramp's gear and was renting it out in a partnership with Supertramp, and then bought sort of the other half of the gear. And now he had a sound system, he had a company name, and well, I guess we better go out and grow a real business here. And so it was a really, really cool founding of a business, of course. And Smoother's done such great stuff over the years, besides Supertramp as well. He's a legend.
It's iconic.
Yeah, I love that guy. How much is he still involved?
So he's involved a lot. He actually sits right across from me. So we're in this, like, Brian's in the GM office, he's the boss. but Smoother and I are in the
He's
sales office.
upstairs.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
2 doors down. But Smoother
Yeah.
and I are in the sales office, like 10 feet away from Brian, and our desks face each other. And
Oh my
I
goodness.
typically only come into the shop. I live in Hollywood. Our office is in Thousand Oaks. Not that it's that far, but it's
Yeah.
like an hour. And because, the majority of my work is, on site or, with clients or whatever else, I'm the VP of sales. So I only go to the shop once a week, or if we're prepping a major show. But when I get into the office, Smoother sits, 20 feet away from me. We face each other. And
That's
I
fun.
can't tell you, it's the funniest thing in the world, but I'll be on like a Zoom call like this or something, and I'll hear him get up because he can't tell that my headphones are in because he's just walking over. And he'll be like, all right, so it's 1984. It's me, Maggie Thatcher, Marty Feldman, Mick Jagger. We're at Barney's Beanery. And I'm literally, I'm like, oh my God, this is the most incredible story of my life. And it's true. Like, there's 1,000 stories like that. And they're all true. And it's
Mr.
incredible.
Zoom call, could you hold, please?
Yeah.
I got another Smoother story.
Yeah.
Can you hold, please?
Can I call you guys right back?
That's hilarious. Yeah, well, because he's also old, so he'll forget. You got to listen right now, otherwise he'll forget although, it's incredible. Like, he's one of those guys who the stories that he told me on the podcast were like, well, yeah, back in 74, like, I'm younger than him and probably haven't had as much damage as him, perhaps. I can't remember what I did in 1974,
He remembers every name.
Incredible memory. And just his chronological order is just one after another.
Amazing.
It's really impressive.
I'll float out a name sometimes. We'll be looking at a client and somebody will come across and I'm like, why do I know that name? And I'll be like, Smoother, this person. And he'll be like, oh yeah, I used to work with Bounce. Then before that was with Merv Griffin. And then we did a thing at the White House and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it was 1982. You remember, like, unbelievably uncanny memory.
It's almost like Rain Man-ish,
Yeah.
It's like that stuff.
It is.
And I'm so terrible. Like, I'm the guy who shakes your hand, walks away, and goes, God damn it, what was his name? And you just told me like 12 seconds ago, right? I'm terrible with that. Terrible. So, people will tell me things that happened so I'm 61. So things that happened when I was like 21 or 20 years old or 18 years old playing in bands or whatever. And they'll be like, remember that time? And I'm like, no, tell me more, and then they'll be like, oh, well, I just scanned all my pictures. Hang on. I got a picture of it. And they'll show me a picture of me when I was 18. And I'm like, what is that? Like, what are you doing? I have no pictures of me when I was 18. So yeah, it's amazing. I love memories like that. It's
me too.
Precious, because, and it's also good for a podcast because otherwise you come on and you go, what do you want to talk about? Like, and they don't know anything. They don't remember anything. So yeah.
No, he's incredible, and he's somebody. I've been with Delicate for almost for like around 9 years, and in the 9 years, I've never once, swear to God, never heard a single person say a bad thing about Smoother. Never. No. Everything. All I ever get is Smoother still involved? How's Smoother doing? Man, I've known Smoother for 30 years. Everybody loves him. He's an icon. I know Brian, I'm sure, feels the same way. We're lucky to be involved, in a company. We joke around about stuff all the time, and he'll ask me stuff, in my capacity as VP of sales or whatever. He'll be like, oh, what do you think, boss? And I'm like, I'm not your boss. I'm like, we literally sit in a building, basically that you built. I'm not, but he's the best. I mean, he's just incredible. And all those stories and all those experiences, like you mentioned earlier, the Delicate brand is so strong because of 45 years of Smoother and Gus and Spy and all those old boys kicking ass for years, and then Jason coming in, and obviously Brian, has retaken what they've done and continued, the legacy of just doing great shows, great tours.
Brian's like the grown up in the room, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
I wouldn't
just
go
tell
that
by
far.
the collar. He's got a collar on. He must be impotent. He's in the office upstairs. Brian is. But no, I mean,
I call myself the leader of the complaint department. So
that's the CEO role.
Unfortunately true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. I get to clean shit up after everybody else breaks it. No, the thing about Smoother, and people like Smoother, and it's something I love about doing a podcast, and it's also something that bugs me about doing a podcast, because a lot of people are aging out and getting older, and some of our friends are dying and stuff like that. And it's sad, but it's also incredible that we have access to these people from a standpoint of, passing on that knowledge, telling those stories that he tells you in the office. And for me, he tells it on the podcast. And I was just sitting in awe the entire time on my podcast, because, I've been around Smoother 1,000 times, but I've never sat and listened to his stories for 2 hours. And this time I did, and it was just amazing. And you probably would go listen to it and go, yep, I know that one. Yep, I know that one. Yeah, yeah.
No,
that one 17 times.
I listened to it, and actually, I think there was
did
like
you?
2 stories in there that I had never heard before.
Wow.
And
Wow. So did he
I
make
was
them up then? Is that what you're saying?
no, I don't think. I feel like he shares about like 1/1000th percentage of all the stories. And I think if he sat down, we used to do a thing. On Tuesdays, everyone goes in the office because we have meetings all day. So we have our production meeting, sales meeting. It's where we kind of, get our minds together, to discuss high level things, of what we have going on. And we used to do this thing where every Tuesday night after work, everyone was invited to go have a beer if we wanted to. So this is, we would all go out to this little bar and have a beer afterwards and just shoot the shit a little bit. And after a while you would have it felt almost like compulsory, where you had like all the department heads came almost reluctantly because they felt like they had to. And so like they'd have their one beer and they'd be like, all right, well, bye. And they'd leave. And it always ended up, being like me, Smoother, and this guy, Richard Galvez, who worked with us a lot and still does. There'd be like 3 of us, and Brian Bazilski, who's been with us 1,000 years and is like, one of those guys who's forgotten more about this industry than most people will ever know. And the 4 of us would sit there and just talk. And that would be the time when Smoother, could Smoother. He could just be who he is, and he'd share these incredible stories. And my wife be texting me, "Hey, are you coming home for dinner?" I'm like, I like Smoother's in telling me this story right now, and he's playing soccer with Mick Jagger and the Brazilian national team. And I'm like, I can't leave. Matter of fact, I just ordered another drink. I'm never leaving. They're incredible.
Wild. It's wild. And the thing that I was gonna say is, I think so many of us forget in our industry, like, especially when you get big private equity involved and stuff. And I'm not knocking private equity. It's so necessary in our industry right now. But when you get private equity involved and it becomes more corporate and all of that, sometimes it's easy for people to be sort of either forgotten or kicked to the wayside, or you forget that the brand and the company was built on 45 years of Smoother, not necessarily the great brand that it is, or the great gear, or the whatever. It was built because of Smoother and around Smoother and by Smoother and all of that stuff. And one of the things that makes me really happy is that he is still there, because I know when the company originally sold, there was a lot of talk about him stepping down and, relaxing and, blah, blah, blah. But Brian, you're dying to jump in. He couldn't do it, could he?
He tried to retire.
Yeah.
He literally,
that doesn't work.
He was in Oregon. He tried to retire, was going to sail off into the sunset with his fishing pole.
Yeah.
And that lasted about maybe 6 months or so.
If that.
Sonny. Yeah. And he just likes being in here. He's in the office almost every single day. He likes to handle his stuff that he handles and chat and just be around it.
God bless him. I mean,
the
thing is, even if you love fishing, when you're able to do it every single day because you have nothing else to do, it's not as fun. Right. It all changes. Like the things that you do for leisure activities, when they become your daily activity, and certainly, I mean, if you really love fishing, you'd love to do it every day, or golf, or whatever it is. But I don't know. For me, there's got to be, it's like I travel. I live in Florida, but I spend the summers at my house up in Canada. I'm from Calgary, and so I have a house in Banff. And I remember my ex-wife used to always complain, it's like, because it's always 2 flights, so it's 7.5, 8 hours to get there. It's such a pain in the ass, because she's from Chicago and doesn't have, the roots that I have here in Alberta. And I said, that's what makes it special. The fact that it takes 8.5 hours. If it was a 30-minute drive and we could be there on Thursday or whatever, yeah, it'd be great, but you get bored of it after a while. Like this, to me, is so special still, and I've had it 22 years or whatever. And it's still so special to come up here every year. So it's the same kind of thing, you know. It's,
But
I don't know.
I think you make a great point about the flip side of that too. Is I think one of the things that makes it this industry we're in, and that you talk about on your podcast, is what makes it so interesting is every show is something new. Like one of the reasons I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've been in all different companies and different roles, and and hundreds of shows, probably thousands of shows over the years. And the reason I'm still here, because I am someone who's like, I get bored super easy. I'm not like, if I'm not a desk guy. I go crazy. Like one of the things that I keep coming back, and why I love this industry so much, because I still fancy myself an artist. I want to be a filmmaker, and I've been working on this forever. But one of the reasons I love this job, and I still love coming to work every day, is because every show is something new. It's a different challenge. It's interesting. It's a new client. It's a new brand. It's a new show. It's a new album. It's new something. And it's fucking great. It's so cool to be able to say, you talk to your buddy, what do you do? I'm an accountant. You work in accounting for him. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's great. What do you do? I just did a show for Spotify with their new lossless thing. What? They're offering a new thing. Yeah. Oh man, that's cool. Yeah, Phineas was there, and we just did. Brian does music cares every year, and it's just massive thing with all these incredible iconic artists, and it's just something we do every single day, and it never gets old to me. It never does.
Well, and the other thing is how creative and just like our industry is made up of, I don't know if you remember the show MacGyver, but it's a bunch of MacGyvers who are able to figure shit out, and it's like when COVID happened, I said, just give it to our industry. We'll fix it. I mean, we'll find ways that people can still get together for concerts. We'll find ways that people can still, go for Thanksgiving dinner or whatever. Like, just give it to us and we'll find some solutions, because our industry does that. We're fixers,
We did drive-in concerts. We did like drive-in theater concerts. You talked about stories in here. We did a drive-in concert with Cypress Hill. And Be Real, I was, we were all hands on deck, because we were a skeleton crew. We had pared down because of COVID. Yeah. And so we're doing this driving concert, no PA, just, stage wedges for the band, you know what I mean? But no actual PA, because everybody's getting it through an FM modulator into their cars. And they're supposed to stay in their cars, which, by the way, nobody did. Everybody just kept getting out of their car. And we're like, we were making announcements, please go back in your car. And they're like, yeah, no, so we're like, whatever.
Would remind me of like, which Cheech and Chong movie was it where the police pulled him over and you couldn't even see the guys in the car. It was so
that's what it
had to be like.
I was cutting the video together, like, because again, all hands on deck, and you do what you're good at. So Jason at the time and Brian were like, hey, why don't you're a video guy, why don't you cut video together? And I was like, great, I can cut cameras, no big deal. So I jump in, I'm cutting cameras, and I'm having fun because I know Cypress Hill's music. So I can cut together to it, and I'm like mixing the camera shots and just kind of having a good deal with it. And Be Real comes, backstage, and he's leaning next to me, and he's smoking a joint that's the size of a drumstick. And, I mean, this is only because my camera doesn't show it. But it's gigantic. Yeah. And he's like, yo, man, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing the videos. And okay. He's like, oh, it's great, man. He goes, hit this. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm in the middle of working, and I'm like, and also, I don't know if you've heard of this ongoing pandemic. Like, I don't know if I want to share a joint with you right now, but it was just crazy shit that this is happening because we're doing this live driving concert with hundreds of cars in this drive-in movie theater, because just like you said, we had to MacGyver away to get revenue and to continue live shows.
Unfortunately, most of those lost money because, let's face it, getting cars that have to be 20 feet apart or something. I don't know. The rules in California are probably like 2 on each block or something, So by the time it's all said and done, you get like 100 paid tickets or 200 paid tickets. It ain't going to pay for Cypress Hill, with or without a sound system. So, I mean, most of them... I loved seeing the innovation. I loved seeing people trying different things, and let's face it, everyone was just so happy to put on your show blacks and go out and do something. It was just fun to do something. Get the hell out of the Netflix on a couch in your house, with your wife and kids and stuff who are like, Sonny, could you please leave? You've been here way too long right now. Could you leave? Like, so many wives got to know their husbands and vice versa during COVID because, people like all these LDs and sound engineers and whatever are on tour like constantly. And now all of a sudden you haven't left the house in 8 months and they're going, please go somewhere, do something. So yeah, it's funny.
For sure.
It's funny. Delicate Productions. Since 1980, Delicate Productions has mastered the art of lighting, audio, and video in high-energy live settings, from iconic music festivals to global tours, corporate launches, award shows, sporting events, and beyond. For Delicate, the only way to get it right is to get it just right. With precision, creativity, and full-service production capabilities, they turn bold visions into moments that linger in pop culture's subconscious. Need a single touring partner to handle audio, lighting, video rigging, and production design? Delicate delivers it all flawlessly. Located in the greater Los Angeles area and part of the Live Events Productions Network, Delicate has access to a deep nationwide inventory of gear and is powered by a highly skilled team amplifying your tour's full potential. Whether you need rigging, production design, or end-to-end show management, they deliver it all seamlessly. And it doesn't end there. Delicate delivers a full 360-degree production experience by teaming up with sister company Pyrotechnico, experts in fireworks, special effects, and drone light shows. Together, they create truly immersive, multi-sensory experiences that elevate every show. Visit delicate.com to see how unforgettable events get made. That's delicate.com, where technical brilliance meets creative impact. So, Delicate, one of the things I'm curious about, and you guys can be as honest as you're able to be or not, but going from being a bunch of Yahoo cowboys, flying by the seat of your pants behind Smoother, to being part of a fairly structured private equity held company. And, I know Stephen Vitale really well, and Rocco and the whole team, and even Stephen's partner. But it is structured because it has to be. You now have some finances invested into the company and some people. You're responsible for the money and for making sure that it's spent well and stuff like that. But how different is it really from a standpoint of the customer viewpoint, the staff? Is it really, really different, or just a little bit different? And any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in here real quick, Sonny.
Sure.
I think it's good. I think it's been an adjustment, but it's all for the greater good of it. I think the real benefit is probably our access to inventory, our clients.
Yeah,
it's good. We're able to service more shows. We're able to take on more than we normally would because we do have access, larger scale stuff. Our ability to quote things that we normally would kind of shy away from, we're going to take a shot at it, see if we can do it. So I think it's a good thing. Just the overall support.
Like you said,
it's a little bit of a learning curve.
It's an adjustment, obviously. Yeah. And but it's sort of a double-edged sword. Like, you now have a lot of support and systems and processes in place, which, can help you to be able to do things. You don't have to fly by the seat of your pants quite so much. But at the same time, you have systems and processes you have to follow, and expectations and accountability and all of those things, right? And so I think at the end of the day, like you said, it is a good thing, because I think especially the direction the business is going and has gone, the industry, I should say, it's so important that everything has ROI and that utilization's really high and stuff like that. Because a moving light that used to cost $5,000 is 17 or 18 grand or 15 grand now. It's crazy, and yeah, I mean, audio consoles used to be 20, 30 grand. Now they're 150 or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it's twofold too. Like you kind of mentioned this in just to echo kind of what Brian said. There are some things about it that are a no-brainer benefit to us. Expanding our reach nationally now. We can launch shows because we're part, our sister companies are Gemini in Dallas, Zenith in Orlando, Active in Atlanta, and obviously Pyrotechnico writ large. Because we have this. So now we have this whole 360 services we can offer that we weren't able to offer before. Now I have clients call me. They're like, "Hey, do you have anybody you could reach out to in Dallas?" I'm like, "I can do your show in Dallas." They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can sell your show in Dallas and my sister company will operate it, and I'll come out there and it's just like your quote's going to come from Delicate, even though technically it's coming from Gemini in Dallas."
Right.
And for a client thing, that's great because if they, they buy the laundry, they buy Delicate and they want the way we do a show, they still get a Delicate show in a different city. So that's an awesome thing for us. The flip side of it, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but this is an adjustment thing, is we used to be able to be like, if we got a wild hair up our ass and wanted to buy a piece of gear, Jason would just buy it. Smoother would just buy it, or Brian could just buy it. We could look at the finances and be like, I want this piece of gear. And now there's a process and a structure for that because it affects a much bigger thing. There's investors, there's CapEx expenditures. It's a lot more structured to the way, there's a tour coming. They want us to buy all these fixtures. Like you said, the latest and greatest. We would just be like, let's buy it. Let's buy 10,000 magic rings. Let's buy all these things. Well, and now we're like, are we going to use that anymore? Does that make sense?
With that though, because I've seen the downside of not being that way, not having a structure, was the early days of PRG when they were just shoving these inventories together from companies on the East Coast with companies on the West Coast, and none of the cabling matched, none of the connectors matched, none of the cases matched, none of the infrastructure matched at all. And so I remember having that conversation early on with Steven is, be really careful about infrastructure and also types of gear. Like, you don't want a bunch of shops that have 12 of each moving light. You want some sort of, collaboration between brands. Like if you're a D&B house, be a D&B house across the board. If you're, L Acoustics, or if you're Martin Lighting, or if you're this lighting or that lighting. And there's so much advantage to doing it that way. So I do think that becomes a part of the process. But then a lot of it's just bean counting. They're just counting beans, doing what they're supposed to do. And that obviously comes when you have bankers as partners. It just happens that way. There's pluses and minuses to having bankers as partners. Yes, you can write a really big check if it makes sense to write it, but you're going to be held accountable for the results,
Right.
And that's where it gets sometimes troublesome. Brian, I know your background is like both operational leadership and also like hands-on, I think, engineering.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With lots of artists too. Like, I didn't actually even know that you had like a touring background as an engineer.
Yeah. I toured pretty heavily from about, I think, 2000 or 99, 2000, around that time, to about 2009. Worked with several artists, like lots of people on this podcast. But really kind of cut my teeth with that. Prior to that was, I'd worked for a couple different companies as shop tech, and a company called Industrial Sound. I don't know if you remember those guys.
I do, yeah.
But they were a mom and pop operation, and that was kind of my first step into the touring stuff. I was excited to work with them. I had I would see truck driver / shop guy / engineer / whatever you need me to do, dude, and kind of worked from the bottom up on that end, and kind of jumped into the touring stuff and did that for about 10 years, and then kind of jumped into the business side after that. So.
It's funny because, when I look at you, even just on this podcast, you look like the grown-up in the room. And I assumed you came in through either some sort of a banking relationship or this kind of relationship or whatever. And you just look like a business guy. You don't, Sonny looks like a touring guy. You look like a business guy. And
which is funny because it's the opposite.
Oh, really?
Probably.
I've never been
background?
I've never been a touring guy. I've never been an engineer ever. My entire background in this industry is in sales and management, period. If I'm behind a console,
same as me.
if I'm behind a console at an event, fucking shit's on fire. We're in big trouble. Like if you see me behind a console, I was always in sales. I was in the military as a broadcast journalist. I got out and I thought I had a job and it fizzled out, and then was like, oh, I should probably find a job. And it's hard to break into civilian broadcasting when your only background is military broadcasting. And I freelanced as a camera engineer because I was, I could shoot camera and stuff. I freelanced doing IMAG for a PSAV gig. And then I was a tech for like 2 weeks, and they're like, hey, do you want to be a director? You're really good at sales. And I was like, sure. What does that mean? And then they gave me my own hotel.
I got to ask though, what is broadcast in the military? Like, what does that role entail? Because I think of, good morning, Vietnam.
It's what I did.
That's what he was. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So for 3 years, I was stationed in Panama from 95 to 98. And I hosted a radio show, a morning radio show. And then I did a lunchtime radio show. And then I was an anchor on the news. And it seems kind of silly, but like in Panama, there were over 1 million people, and we were the only English speaking station. So everybody watched us. So I was like a minor celebrity there, where people go, Sonny Dyon, Canalocho. Like they knew me because I was on TV and I was on the radio all the time. But so I hosted a TV show called Panama Now. And then I was an anchor on the news, and I was a reporter on the news, and I did radio news. I learned every aspect. I worked in every aspect of
friggin' awesome.
Cut commercials.
Why would you work for the military doing that though? Because are you speaking to the military, or are you speaking to just anyone who's listening?
So it started out with being an on-base station, but because of part of the treaty, this is way too much, but the 77 Carter-Torrijos Treaty of Panama, what they did is the AFRTS stations, Armed Forces Radio and Television stations, would have to provide a community benefit as well. So, and also a lot of people live off base. So you have an on-base station, which is like Commander's Access Channel that anybody who lives on base could access. But then there was also off base, where people off base, like Panamanians, had us on Channel 15 on cable, so they could watch Seinfeld, because we had all of those huge TV shows would license their products to us like a year behind or 6 months behind or whatever it was. But for free. They just gave the programs to the military for nothing. And so we could air those shows. And so, man, if you wanted to watch Seinfeld, or if you wanted to watch it in English, you had to watch it on AFRTS or AFN. Now it's called Armed Forces Network. But so our news station was heavily watched, and most of the stuff we covered, was primarily military based. So, I mean, nothing like, we're not like, oh, and we're going to bomb this place coming up in 5 days. Like we couldn't talk about anything like that. So it was literally like, I remember we were on a cast one time, and it was literally the day before the O.J. Simpson trial verdict was announced. And so it was like, we were talking about that. It was like such a huge national story. And I wanted to be more like real national news, and not like, there's a fair today on base, and blah blah blah. You take your kiddies out and ride a roller coaster. Like, who gives a shit? So like, but that's what we were supposed to do. And this day, I got literally preempted right before we went on news. The public affairs, who was a colonel, comes running in. He grabs the news director. He hands him this paper. They stop us because sometimes we would record it. We would pre-record the news because these are guys that, we're professional, but not all of us are great at our job. So like, sometimes we'd fuck up while we were in the news, and they'd have to edit it and fix it. So we didn't want to do that live because it's super embarrassing. So we would try to record the news and then air it live to tape like at 6 p.m. So we try to record at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. We did this 30-minute newscast. And so my news director runs in, he stops us recording, hands me this. He's like, we have to lead with this press brief. And I'm thinking the president's shot. I'm thinking, this is breaking news. A kiddie train derailed at a fair, and some kids fell out. Nobody's hurt or anything. And I go,
oh my goodness,
we're not really leading with this, right? And he's like, yeah, well, this particular day, I read the thing, and they pump it into the teleprompter, and I'm like, the USARSO commander was this guy named Joe Curtin, Colonel Joe Curtin. And I was like, this thing happened at the USARSO fair, and now with more, we go to a soundbite from Colonel Joe Curtin. And then I paused because they're supposed to cut it and then edit it together. And I go, and it's so important.
Oh, no.
And they didn't cut that off. So I'm at home watching it with my wife, and I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, and my phone goes ring, and my commander's like, I want to see you on the
Oh,
carpet
my God.
first thing tomorrow morning. And I'm like, I'm fucked. Yeah, I went from there to Nellis Air Force Base in Vegas and hosted a TV
So they
show.
sacked you.
No, they didn't. No, I got yelled at. I think I got moved to radio news for like a week. I got Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
I got slapped on the hand and removed from the air for, a couple of days. And then I came back and had to apologize. And then, so I did that. And then I stumbled into this industry and then I've been doing it for, like I said, 25 years.
So did you go to school for broadcast, or did you just walk into a recruiting office and goes, that looks hard, that looks really easy, I want to do that? I'm going to be a radio broadcaster.
I stumbled into it. I actually joined because I watched A Few Good Men and thought it was great. And everybody's always said, oh, you're such a good arguer, you should be a lawyer. I didn't realize that this is a thing too. Apparently you have to go to law school to be a lawyer. I mean, it doesn't, Kim Kardashian doesn't, but some people do. And so I went into a Navy recruiting office and was like, hey, I saw this movie. I'd like to join up. I want to be a lawyer. And they're like, did you go to law school? I'm like, nah. They're like, did you go to college? Nah. Like, I got married when I was 20 after dating for 3 months, and I work at Musicland. Like, can I get a job and they're like, yeah. They're like, but you work in Musicland and you like entertainment stuff. Have you ever thought about being a journalist? And I'm like, well, I'm a writer. That sounds great. And ended up not joining the Navy for too long of a story. So I joined the Air Force. And then originally they made me a crypto linguist because I had high test scores, which meant basically a translator. And then some stuff happened and they had to reclassify me to something else. And by chance, this broadcaster guy, there was no spots open for the broadcasting job because the school was closing and not going to reopen for a year. And so where I was cycling in my training, I wouldn't have been, by the time I got out of basic training, I wouldn't have been able to make the school. But by chance, some dude who was 2 classes behind me, and he fell on the confidence course. That's the only thing they ever talk about basic training is the confidence course. And this dude fell and broke his arm. So he was getting out. So they're like, there's a spot open. And I took it. And then I did that for 6 years. Yeah, it was great. But that's kind of how I stumbled into this industry, by learning broadcasting. So I knew a little bit about all the things that we do, with the exception of like projection and LED and everything. But I knew I could mix sound a little bit. I could shoot camera, I could do some switching, directing, that kind of stuff. But I never was an actual engineer. I mean, for PSAV, I mixed small rooms because, hotel AV, you do everything. Yeah. But I was never really good at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I was good at bullshitting. I was good at talking to clients and selling stuff. And I knew that was not my skill set. Again, if I'm behind the console somewhere, something's on fire, we're in big trouble.
Yeah. No, it's the same. I mean, people come on and they'll talk to me about, different types of shackles and stuff. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they're like, well, whenever you fly a rig, and I'm like, I've never flown a friggin' rig. I've stood under them occasionally, but I've never flown a rig. And it's funny because, I run out of knowledge before I run out of, I think, ideas to ask questions and stuff. And, but yeah, that's really cool. I would have never guessed that would be somebody's background coming into this industry. It's
insane.
Good morning, Vietnam. This episode is brought to you by Acme. Geezers of Gear is thrilled to welcome Acme Lighting as our newest sponsor. If you've ever been blown away by stage lighting that cuts through the haze with pure brilliance, you might have caught Acme in action. Founded in 1985 and based in Foshan, China, with growing global reach, Acme has been pushing boundaries in entertainment lighting for decades. From profile fixtures like the Supernova and Lyra to powerful IP-rated beam and wash fixtures, hybrid fixtures, and lasers, Acme's catalog has options for nearly every show, venue, and touring specification. Whether you're lighting a major concert, a corporate gala, or an outdoor festival, Acme is about show-stopping visuals and reliable performance. If you're designing your next lighting plot or looking for inspiration, head over to acmelighting.com to check out their full lineup. Big thanks to Acme for powering the lights that shape so many live moments and for supporting Geezers of Gear. We're proud to have you on board. So let's talk about Delicate again, because I want to get into sort of, again, I love the brand. I love the company. I love the people in it. I think there's a great opportunity for sort of small to mid-sized touring company right now coming in and really just growing into a spot where you're taking a lot of those like I just see a lot of the bigger companies are fighting over the same big tours, and some of the smaller ones are finding a harder time to get a lot of attention or to get, you know, real personal you know, just the right group around them and stuff. And I've heard this a lot. I had a conversation, I won't mention which company, but had a conversation with a touring exec at one of the major companies yesterday, and it was really funny because it was kind of like, well, you know, yeah, we're not doing those kind of shows right now because it just doesn't make sense for us. You know, we're really focused on some of the bigger stadium stuff or whatever. And great, like if that's your business model and that's where you want to be and that's what fits, you know, the however your business is structured and your CapEx model and all of that stuff, great. You know, knowing who you are, you know, knowing your identity is probably one of the most important things in business, not trying to be everything to everyone. And I've always said, like, you know, remember the IBM ThinkPad? I don't even know if they still make it. But the only reason that even worked as a product and didn't get screwed up completely by IBM is because they made it a completely separate company. So when they were building these big mainframe computers, this is a dumb story that doesn't match our industry at all, but I'm going to tell it anyway. They were building these massive mainframe computers, and they were that size, right? Dealing with massive enterprise customers, and you know, their average customer was in the you know, top 500 or whatever. And so when they were coming out with this laptop, someone got really smart and said, we need to right size a business for going after the personal computer laptop market, because otherwise, you know, we're just going to try and sell them to enterprises and stuff, and we're going to fail. And so they completely started a different company outside their main buildings. I think it was based in Florida or something. Smaller group of people, very entrepreneurial, completely separate from IBM's books and everything else. And it worked like really, really well because you right-sized the business to fit the customers. And so that's why sometimes I think some of the largest companies going after, you know, a small theater tour, they're not going to feel the love perhaps in that theater tour. And I'm not saying in every case, but that's what I feel like in some cases, probably.
No, I think you're totally right. And I think that's kind of where our niche is. What we do really well, probably better than anything else. I mean, everyone's got gear. Everyone's got crew, you know, everyone's got gear and guys. Everybody does that, right? We all know what the best gear is. We all know who is a great A1, who's a great front of house guy, who's mixes monitors. Well, everyone knows that. Those are not big secrets.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has that. What differentiates us, Delicate, and I would say, you know, writ large, the whole live events family, is that we're completely service based. So our thing is, like, we pride ourselves on, if my client calls me and they're on a small tour, theater tour, I mean, whatever, within a half an hour, I'm going to answer them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to message them back, even if it's just to say, you know, hey, I got your message, I'm working on it. Like, a lot of times I'll send clients a thing where I'll literally just say, on it. I'm on it.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. And I know Brian does the same thing. I think where we right size ourselves into the industry right now, and you've got behemoths, you have these, you know, monolith companies that are just, they own the whole lion's share of the industry. It's really tough to compete with that. The only thing what would separate, I mean, everybody wants to do Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? Like, she's unbelievable. It's $1 billion tour. I mean, it changes the whole game. But one, that'd be really tough for us to handle that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a good thing for our business model. But these smaller theater tours, basketball arena, even like we've done a ton of stuff at SoFi, you know, so we can do arena tours, you know, like, you know, if it was the right size, you know, event. But what we can do that maybe the behemoths don't offer, just because of scale, you know, just because of the, you know, pure size of their book, is we still give a shit. We still answer the phone. We still answer text message. You can reach us. Basically, I hate to say this, and my wife hates it, but you can call me 24 hours a day, and I'm probably going to freaking answer, you know, because this live events doesn't shut down. You know what I mean? Like, there is no, we didn't jump into this industry to work 9 to 5. Like, that doesn't exist. You know, so for us, it has to be something where when, you know, your client is on the road, we've had it happen. Like, we did the Killers for years, and I'm sure Brian, you know, fielded a lot of those calls, and Smither did, where they picked up a one-off and they need a B system. And, you know, we're like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to ship this to Brazil in 2 days? Or who can we partner with? And even if we lose our ass, but we got to take care of our band. We got to take care of our client. And I think that level of service is something we do really, really well. And I think it comes down to the fact that every one of us still cares. We still really want to do good shows. It matters to us that our name is on a show like that. It's when the client is done, they're like, God, you guys kicked ass. Like every time I get a note, a text, a letter, whatever, that the client says the show is great, I'm still happy about it. I'm still excited. I don't just go, who cares? You know, I mean, I'm like, yeah, we did it again, boys. We whipped them again. I'm like, I'm excited.
Well, and
I love it.
I'm very close with all of the big companies out there too. And I would say that for the most part, they all care. It's just that you can't care for Taylor Swift and, you know, a 2,000 seat theater tour at the same time. So that's either a completely separate business within a business, or you just go, hey, this is a better focus for us at this end or at this end of the industry. But it's got to be tempting for you guys. Like one more thing I'd like to mention, and then Brian, I'll shut up and you can talk, is that it's got to be tempting when Pyrotechnico is as strong as they are right now in touring. Like almost every major show, major tour, major event, major this, major that seems to be them doing the pyro and special effects. And I'm sure that Mr. Vitale is constantly saying, hey, Brian, you know, is there a way we can get the sound on, you know, this mega stadium show that we're doing right now or whatever? But you got to be disciplined, right? Just like the big guys have to be disciplined. As a smaller one, you have to be disciplined as well, and know where you're at.
Yeah, definitely. Now those opportunities come through, and we try and find where the synergies are. Definitely like to take a look and take a shot at some of that stuff there too.
Yeah.
But like you said beforehand, some of that smaller things, those are really kind of in our wheelhouse. I think we service them really well.
Yeah.
You know, big fish, small pond kind of stuff. You know, I think we've kind of set the standard here, at least on our leadership side, even across the board in live events of, look, we've got to take care of our clients. Our clients are everything.
Yeah.
Try not to put one above the other. Everybody deserves the same amount of attention. Yeah, I mean, I understand exactly what you're talking about, Marcel, some of the big box companies and yeah, how do you compete with some of these massive stadium tours and these other people that have, like you said, some of these one-offs that pop up and we need A, B, and C systems to go to different countries and stuff, and how do you prioritize that?
Well,
that's something that Delicate does really well.
But even just from an account exec standpoint, like if Sonny's the VP of sales, you know, how is Sonny going to be out at the Taylor Swift opening that just happens to be the same night as the, you know, whatever, I can't think of an artist that's in the sort of 5 to 10,000 seat venue type of.
It's a great question.
But you know what I mean? Like, so you can't is the answer. And you can't also, I know companies have tried to have 200 or 300 sales executives or whatever, but it doesn't work out that well. And, you know, because again, we're a personality and relationship industry, right? So I just think that it's a good thing that you've got, like, you know, this company over here that's focused on sort of from here up, and then this company here is focused on this middle section, and this company here might be focused on the middle down kind of thing. It makes the most sense. Like, it really does. And I think you guys have a really great sweet spot opportunity in there between the legacy of your business, you know, the smoother side of your business, but also how hard you and Sonny and others in the organization work, and you know, the support and branding and effort and everything else of live events as well, which I think they've been doing a better and better job all the time here with their marketing and stuff as well, especially Pyro.
Huge.
Like, Pyro's been crazy. They've done such a great job on the Pyro side, getting those shows out. Like, I mean, getting them out to the public as far as whether it's emails or social media or whatever. They've done a really good job of just saying, hey, look at this cool thing we did. And the branding is really good and stuff. So
the marketing team has been like, I mean, I used to handle it. before, and it was a nightmare. I hated it, and I wasn't good at it. And there were certain things like I was great at publicizing my shows, but then I wouldn't know what I should talk about for Brian's shows, or for Baz's shows, or Smoother shows, or somebody else's. I would struggle because it wasn't my show. I don't really know all the details. I can look at our quoting software and kind of get the details, but I didn't really know the show. Now we have the marketing department for live events, and we meet with them at least once a month. We do a marketing call and talk through everything. Every time they're going to do a blast or an Instagram post, whatever else, they send it to Brian and I, and we both look at it and we're like, hey, can we change this to this? Or we didn't do video for that. We only did lighting for it. And, or I'll make sure we tag this company because that's who hired us, but by and large, they're just awesome. They're really good at what they do. They pick great pictures. They're smart. But it's expanding our reach. And nowadays where, it used to be Smoother could go to Barney's Beanery, bump into Vince Neil, and we have the Motley Crue tour. And nowadays it's like the 23-year-old marketing major that's hiring us now doesn't know us if we're not on TikTok or Instagram. They have no idea who we are.
It's wild, isn't it? That's so
crazy.
True. So true.
But you said this earlier, and I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a great quote from Sun Tzu that's know yourself and know your enemy, and you need not fear 100 battles. It's the same thing. Like know yourself, know your market, and you need not fear 100 interactions, right? If you actually know who you are and what you're selling, you're going to be completely better at selling it than being like, no, we're going to go after Taylor Swift. Why?
It's a heck of a lot less.
Taylor Swift.
It's a lot less frustrating, a lot less disruptive to your business, because if you did take on Taylor Swift, just imagine what a hell life would be in general. It just
insane.
Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
We would decimate our other clients if we picked
of course,
something like that.
And you'd lose those relationships. And I've made these mistakes 100 times in my career where, I was always reaching beyond what I knew my boundaries were. And, when you do that, it usually punches you right back in the face real quickly and reminds you to get back in your seat, son. Go sit down. Let the grown-ups. So you guys both have had like such diverse and unusual careers, not necessarily that unusual, but if you weren't in live events, what do you think you'd be doing right now? And Sonny, I know you'd probably be some host of a weird TikTok show or something.
I'd be making movies. I mean,
really?
I write, I direct stuff on the side. Just, it's more than a hobby because it's a passion, but I don't make any money at it. It's apparently getting in the movie industry is really hard. But yeah, I mean, that's I tell stories. I mean, that's what I like to do. So I love to write, I love to just tell stories. Maybe I'd be hosting a podcast. I don't know, but that's what I would be doing if I didn't.
That's what I was going to say. Like one of the cool things about social media, the internet, YouTube, just online video in general and stuff is you don't have to do all of that other stuff. You don't have to make big production movies. You can make little mini movies that people download 8 billion times and you become Mr. Beast, So not that that's easy to do either, but there's all kinds of opportunities. And it's like, I've never been somebody who wanted to be a radio host or wanted to be, a broadcaster of any kind or anything. I just saw a lot of cool people with really cool stories. Nobody was talking to them. I got a big mouth. I like to talk. So I said, well, I'm just going to throw together this podcast. And it's worked out really well. So, what about you, Brian?
But you picked a niche thing that's like that about. Like that's really smart. Like the best podcasts, like the things that I listen to, or anybody actually that finds an audience, they find an audience because they pick one thing. Like they're not doing this generalist podcast that you're like, what are we doing here? The ones I listen to are like I watch the Rewatchables is a Ringer podcast with Bill Simmons, and they talk about movies, and it's talking about Airplane, or it's Bill Hader on there, and I'm like, oh man, this is my thing. Those are the ones I like to listen to. Whereas if you did a podcast about the news or about daily events, I get enough of that.
It's so funny because I have a really good friend up here in Canada who just started a podcast a few months ago. He's on like episode 13 or 14 or something now. Great guy, good friend of mine, musician for many, many years. I used to own a music store when I was like 19 or 20 years old or something, and he used to buy stuff from me at my music store.
Cool.
And so he started his podcast, and at first it was about his life and music and local bands and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, this might have some legs. And then he got into politics. Like, I'm going to talk about politics and how screwed up the world is right now. And I mean, and he's enthused because he's getting a couple hundred views or whatever already, which is decent for somebody who's on episode 13 or something. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, and I called him right away and I said, dude, like, you're so good at talking about the things that you're passionate about. Let the politics people talk about politics. Right. You're never going to get a big following, and if you do, you're going to have to be so controversial that you're going to lose most of your friends and stuff. So is it really worth it? Like, I don't know.
Especially where we are now, the divisive nature of politics.
It's brutal. I avoid it. I avoid it like the plague. Like yesterday, I think it won't be out till next week, but the podcast I recorded yesterday, at the beginning, I said, okay, so I want to talk about something that's really fresh and very relevant right now, this Charlie Kirk thing. And I know that there's people cringing when they're going to be listening to it next week. They're going to be like, oh my God, he's not going there. And I said, but I don't want to talk about what you think I want to talk about, because I'll leave to the political pundits out there. But I want to talk about, how does that change our industry? Are we going to see Taylor Swift, walking around the stage under an acrylic dome, a bulletproof dome from now on? Like, are we going to start seeing, big sheets of plexiglass at the front of stages, and like, what's it going to look like at some point? Because you've got artists who are picking a side on politics and stuff. Some of them are very outspoken. And so does some crazy wingnut out there go and start shooting artists at shows because they don't like their opinion?
It's scary.
It seems to be headed that direction. They're getting bolder and bolder, these crazy fuckers with guns and knives and, cars and whatever they're using to kill people. So I just wonder, like, I don't know why that thought popped in my head. I think it was because, first of all, I saw the thing, and then I saw Trump doing a speech somewhere. I think it might have even been at the funeral. And he was behind plexi. And I'm like, oh, this is different, especially a guy that's so bold and willing to walk out in front of anyone and anywhere. Like, he's been very, very almost nonchalant about it, even though half the world wants to kill him. And now he's talking behind, bulletproof glass. And so that was the direction I went with it. I didn't go the direction of talking about the politics, because that's not my job. That's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But what about you, Brian? Where would you be if you weren't doing this?
That's a great question. This is kind of all I know. So I think I'd probably be a starving musician.
Really?
Honestly.
Do you play something? Are you a musician?
I used to. Yeah, I used to play the bass for about 9 years, and that's kind of how I got my start in the
whole business.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun fact of the day.
That's awesome.
I'm actually a recovered bass player too. I was a singer. I started as a singer, and our manager was a Catholic priest. And he shows up at rehearsal one day, and we were a rock band. And he shows up at rehearsal one day, and he goes, he fires our bass player, and he goes, Marcel, learn to play it. Our next gig's in 4 weeks. And, so I had to learn to play an instrument while singing, and learn 40 songs like in a month or something, right? And it wasn't super hard songs. It was, dunk, 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 dunk. It wasn't that hard, right? But yeah, so I was a bass player too. I still have a bunch of basses I don't play, but yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my intro into the biz too, because like a lot of people, I was the dude that was setting up the sound gear, we had a little band, and I was hauling everything around, and I just kind of took a liking to it. So that kind of parlayed into a couple of different steps. I have a local guy we worked with that did some college stuff as well. And, I thought I had the greatest job ever in high school. Most people were delivering pizzas and stuff, and I was able to go out and hump some speakers around and stuff. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. This is, like I said, this is all I know. So,
yeah. So our industry is full of dude, you ain't gonna believe what just happened sort of stories. Do you have a favorite story, either one of you? Like a war story from the road, or an event, or?
I got one.
Cool.
We were doing a festival, and it was a larger one out here in Southern California, and we had a it was one of those festivals that was supposed to be DJ oriented, and little by little it just kind of turned into adding some pretty large bands in it. And we were at a changeover into a headliner, and we had a front of house console die that he was working on at that time. It was about 50,000 people,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
everybody's trying to bring the console back to life. We're trying everything, and the mother it wasn't coming back. This thing was dead, and everyone was kind of looking at each other like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
And we ended up deciding the only way this is going to work is we're going to have to mix front of house from the monitor desk. And so we ran, and we ended up taking just a left right feed off of the side fill send and put it in and started, and it was a full success. So it
Oh
worked
my
out, and
God, that's pretty wild.
that
I
was
don't.
probably it was, yeah. You always think about all these other scenarios, you have to backup plans and this and that extra debt, but for whatever reason, it just there was no other way to do this. This is
Yeah.
either that or the band's not going on. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's a big one. Yeah. What about you,
it
Sonny?
was, yeah.
Anything?
Mine is similarly disaster oriented.
I love
I
disasters
was,
when they're not
yeah, I
mine.
was, yeah, for sure. It's like watching somebody trip. It's funny because
Yeah.
it's not you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was doing a gig. This is like I owned my own company for several years, like a much smaller version of Delicate, but like it was, and also more like niche, like corporate conferences and conventions and stuff. And I was doing
Yeah.
a publishers conference at the New York Marriott Marquis. And I don't know if you, yeah, I'm sure you guys have worked there or been there, but
I've stayed there. I haven't worked there.
the hotel dock shuts down like 5 hours a day because it backs up to Broadway. So you can't, at some point during the day, the dock completely shuts down during the matinees because they don't want to hear trucks because of the Broadway theaters behind it. So this corporate event, the client that I was working with at the time completely spaced that he didn't book the actual space for load-in day. So we were loading in same day show, which we didn't know until we got there. So we're literally trying to get in the ballroom and it's not available. And so I'm calling my client. I'm like, hey man, my whole team's here. My truck is dumped and they said there's something going on in the ballroom, but we don't get the ballroom until tomorrow. And he's like, oh yeah, we talked about that. I'm like, nope, no, we didn't.
Oh,
I'm like, all
Jesus.
my quotes have said us loading in today and I'm here and you have my hotel rooms. Like, why would I come in 2 days before the show? Like, why would I, you know what I mean? And he was like, no, you got to load in same day. So we're like, all right. I'm like, well, here's my concern with that. If something goes wrong, we're fucked. Like
Yeah.
there's this window that we can't get anything delivered to the dock. And it was almost like I spoke the evil into the world. And about 45 minutes before the show started, our console completely crashed, would not recover. And I'm like, oh shit. And so we called, I think it was VER.
Don't call Brian. He ain't got a spare.
Yeah, exactly. So
not that day.
They come in and I go to the hotel and I'm like, hey, listen, we're in a pickle here. This is the situation. And they're like, sorry. And I'm like, well, no, the show has to go on. We don't have a backup. There's nothing else we can do here. And they're like, sorry. So it was VER. And I told VER, I'm like, listen, come up in a Sprinter van, come to valet, and we're going to dump your truck. They're like, we're not allowed to do that. I'm like, listen, the show is going to crash if you don't do this. I know you're not supposed to do it, but I'll take the brunt of it. So I come out there with like two local New York stagehand guys, and we get out there and I'm like, grab the console and go, and I'm going to run interference for security. And security's like, you can't do that. And I'm like literally standing in front of them so these guys can push this console through the lobby of the hotel. We get in, we barely get in on time. We can't sound check. So we go hot live, and it was a situation where they had dueling podiums, and they had podiums, but they also wanted lavs because at some point they were going to walk out and talk, away from the podium. Well, everyone's flustered because, the show probably wasn't going to happen about 10 minutes before doors. And we get it in, we do a quick, try to do as much as we can to get it going. But the room's not EQ'd. Everything is like a mess because we're literally starting from scratch. We get it up, we do like a quick sound check, we play some music for it, we test the mics, whatever. And my front of house guy just gets lost. And so he starts getting feedback because he's got a lav channel open with the podium mic and they're feeding back and he can't figure it out. So we're sitting there watching, and then these guys start moving. So now he's like,
God.
And you could see he's lost. And my client leans over and goes, do you know how fired you are right now? You are so fired. And I'm like, I got it. I'm like, so we're trying to figure it out. And it was just a mess. It took us like 3 minutes. It was the longest 3 minutes of my life. I'm, the sales guy in the corner, just like, oh my God, it's just the most brutal. I mean, like 5 seconds of feedback or whatever is a lifetime. It was 3 minutes of just, I mean, it was the most embarrassing. Brutal. It was terrible.
You remember who the show was for? Was it for anybody big or some unknown?
No, it was a corporate. It was like it was like a publishing awards conference for like mostly like trade wet rags. It was like something like that.
So you never worked with them again?
We did, and they didn't pay us. And they came back and said, "Oh, well, this is a credit because that show went so poorly." And I was like, "Nope, we never agreed to that."
God.
It was
business
a huge
fun.
mess.
Isn't
awesome.
Business fun? It is so awesome sometimes. Like
it was embarrassing.
That's wild.
The rest of the show actually went well too, though. Like after that, we did 4 days. So that was just the opening night. Then we had general session every day and breakouts every day and like 20 breakouts. It was a big corporate show, and everything else went literally flawlessly. But no one cares about how the rest of the show goes. 3 minutes was, Armageddon. As far as it was like the rapture that we didn't get raptured yesterday.
Yeah,
or at least I'm still here. I don't know who else got raptured.
I heard about that. Can either one of you name, like, from the time that you've been at Delicate, what's the most iconic production that you were a part of?
I'll let Sonny take this because I know you got one.
Yeah, we did this K-pop show at Capitol Records, biggest show in the history of Capitol Records, biggest show in the history of Delicate, like one-off. We've done huge, massive tours, but the biggest one-off we ever did. And it was put together in like 3 weeks, and the sales guy for it was so out of his depth. And I know this personally because it was me. It started out as a small, like little, trailer stage show
intimate
that pulls up
it's
on
just
Vine
an intimate
Street.
show.
Well, they were going to shut down Vine Street and they were going to put like a Sam 575 on Vine Street. So it was like racks and stacks, a couple LED walls on the eyebrows, whatever. It's like a very simple show we've done 10,000 times. And even I, who hadn't done shows like that at the time, could have pulled that off no problem. It ends up being this custom stage with servo motors for all of the LED walls. So they go in and out, and then the stage lifts in it. I had never done any of that before. Like I literally was like, okay, but they were like, hey, can we do that? I'm like, sure, totally. I'm like going back to my bosses,
figure it out.
Going back to Brian and Jason, our old GM, and I'm like, hey, how do we do this? I'm like, and it was just, there's a massive, massive show. And they had Pantages Theater, speaking of like theaters, is right next to, Capitol Records, on Hollywood Boulevard, famously. And they had somebody from the Pantages Theater come over and said, hey, we're worried about this concert because we've got a Blue Man Group show happening like right after it. And we're like, yeah, but our thing ends at 7:28 and your doors are 8:00. So we're 32 minutes. Our show's completely over before your thing. They're like, but we do pre-show music. I'm like, what jazz music you're playing in the lobby? You know what I mean? But there's 10,000 people coming to the show on Vine Street. It's good for the neighborhood and it's cool. It's Capitol Records, the most historic building in the city. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And they would not back off of this. So they try to hold us to a dB rule. They're like, you can only go to 100 dB. And I'm like, that's not loud enough. I'm like, it's just simply not loud enough. And they're like, well, we really wanted you to go 90 dB. I'm like, that's like a lawnmower. I'm like, that's just, it's not loud enough for when we have 10,000 bags of meat sitting here and the music's going off of. And they, like, it got to a point where I had sent so many text messages saying, guys, I really got to tell you that this is a bad idea, that they were like, stop talking about it. Stop saying, whatever. And then, of course, as soon as this concert started and there's all the people there, the CEO of the record label was like, this isn't loud enough. And you got to change it. We're like, we were told they had a VU meter there. They're like, or DB meter. They're like, it was redlined. And I'm like, all right, well, we're told this. And he's like, I don't give a shit. Make it louder. So then we made it louder and the show went great.
It's his problem now.
It was an 8-day build. in a parking lot, the mural lot at the at Capitol Records, the famous mural lot. It was behind them in the personal Capitol Records, like the people who work at Capitol Records. It was in that parking lot, so it wasn't even in that mural lot because the mural lot's huge. It would have been easy in that lot.
Yeah,
we had 15 semi trucks blocking like Vine Street, and people are pissed off. The cops are coming. They're like, "What are you doing?" And I didn't know how to do any of that. Like, I didn't know how to marshal trucks. Like, that's just not something I did before.
Oh, I thought you were going to say pay off cops. I didn't know how to pay off cops.
Yeah, I didn't. And our cash thing our petty cash thing was a whole process at the time. So it was a huge, giant learning experience. But in the end, the show went perfectly, and it's still historically there's 50 million people who've watched the video that we did, and
That's awesome.
it's this amazing. It looks great. It's such a cool show, and I learned so much because I failed completely at every step of the way as I was learning. I didn't know how to do it. I mean, we didn't fail. Yeah, we had to figure it out. And it was it's still something to this day. It's probably one of my most proudest moments of the world.
That's
is that I shouldn't have sold it, because I really didn't know it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. And we made it happen, and the show went great, and the client overall was thrilled. Afterwards, the show was flawless.
When was
the
this,
actual
Sonny?
production? 2019 or 2018, I think, maybe.
Oh, okay.
It was Brian. It was right when you started, right? At Delicate.
Yeah. Just before
I think 2019.
aboard,
it was, but it was massive show, and in the end, I learned so much about. We had a video wall on top of the roof there, and it had been engineered by the city and approved, and it had been engineered by the building engineer and approved. And the guys that we had building the LED wall walked up and called me up, and they're like, "Not building this." And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "'Cause the wind is going to knock this LED wall, and you're going to kill people." And I was like, well, it was stamped. The engineering said it was safe. They're like, they're dumb. They should never stamp this. This is not the motors and all this stuff. And so immediately I was like, all right, well, if it's going to hurt people, we're not doing it. And we had to go to the clients and explain to them, like, I know I sold you this, and I know it was stamped engineering, and we went through all the right processes, but the engineers that are actually building this wall are right. It's there's not enough ballast because the roof is soft, so we couldn't get enough like G blocks or something on there to hold it. And I'm like, it's not safe. And they're like, but we need that wall. I'm like, you don't need the wall enough to kill, a 5'2" K-pop fan. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, trust me. Like, this is like a career.
This could get ugly really, really quick. Yeah.
And they were Capitol Records was great about it. They were literally like, well, if it's not safe, we're not doing it. So we had to cancel it. But this is like 5 hours before the show. So there was just all these little unique challenges of something we'd never done before. And it was great. It was trial by fire. I mean, after that, I was like, any show they threw at me, like, can you do this? Yeah, why not? Sure, we'll figure it out.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, that's our industry, though. It's say yes and figure it out. And that's how people have created careers. That's how companies have created themselves. Oh, yeah, we can do. Oh, yeah. Have you ever done it before? Oh, many times, never. So
fake it till you make it.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. Last question. What excites you guys the most about the future of Delicate, future of your role in Delicate, where you guys are taking this thing? What excites you?
I think what excites me the most is our ability to do shows across the board at different scales. Like, it's just a whole nother level that we have right now.
Yeah.
We've really been working hard to kind of tweak our process of how that works. Everything sounds great from the outside, and then you get into the devils and the details and the nuts and bolts. And we've really been kind of working hard to try and get everybody on the same page. And how does that work? And how do we gear wise quoting, all of that stuff? I think we're really at a point where we can kind of attack all of our clients anywhere. Feel pretty good about it. Not just Hail Mary. Hey, we got the show popping in. We've really got a good process going with live events with all of our opcos, and really integrating Pyrotechnico, and just trying to maximize, we call it the 360 approach that we have. And like you said earlier, the service stuff, it's kind of what we hang our hat on. I think we're pretty good at it.
It's a superpower, it's definitely, it's a superpower. It's, I know some of the bigs are starting to add audio, like, for example, Four Wall says that, they're now adding audio. And I think it's because they were struggling on some of the massive 360 stuff they were going after, and the audio quotes they were getting probably weren't quite as good as it needed to be to make it happen. And it was kind of nuking them out of the deal. And so I know they're starting to acquire some audio now so that they can kind of manage it on their own. I think it's probably going to be harder than what they think it is, but
Sure.
You don't just take a behemoth lighting company and say, okay, we're going to buy a couple sound systems and have a sound team, sound department. Like, you got to find all those A1 folks out there, and they're all busy, so it's not that easy. But
good people are always busy, right?
they are. Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. I think it's a fantastic company. I love Steven. I love live events. I think, other than Delicate, Live Event Productions is probably one of the cooler names in the industry. It just makes so much sense. Like, what do you do? Look at our name. What do you think we do?
Right.
Sometimes the obvious is the best, and I was surprised that the name was available when they came up with it. I was like, are you sure you can call it that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it just kind of worked out. Well, the same thing. I was surprised you guys had the domain for delicate.com. I was like, no, it's got to be like delicatesound.com or something.
I think it's because we were around so long. You started the internet. Were smart enough to.
You designed the internet. Yeah,
smoother.
It was called SmootherNet when it first started.
Smoother. It's me, Maggie Thatcher, Al Gore. We are Barney's Beanery. We invented the internet.
Yeah, we did. That's fucking hilarious. That is so funny.
I think they just just to kind of talk about what Brian said too. What's exciting for me, I'm the VP of sales, so my whole job is growing business, right? That's literally what I do. Producing good shows, growing business, and best way to grow business is produce good shows. And I think the most exciting thing for me is the one thing I love about working at Delicate and ipso facto live events is we just have great people. Like this is the first place I've ever worked that I just like everybody I work with. They're good at their job. They give a shit. And they have a sense of pride, and that, like, I'm 52. You get old, you get tired of the shit.
Yeah,
you get sick of people that are malcontents and don't like what they're doing. It's like, do something else. Learn to color, learn to code.
Yeah.
Do something else. Don't do this. And I like that everyone really has the same focus, and we're driven to make great shows happen. And then the other part of that too, which is obviously Kit and Kindle, is clients. Man, we meet new clients every day, and they're always some exciting new challenge. And I love when we work with a new client that doesn't know us, comes in, they're trepidatious at first, like, I hope you guys don't fuck this up. And we kill it. And they're like, man, I don't want to go anywhere without you. Like, I love you guys. That's such an incredible feeling. And the fact that I get to do this over and over and over again for, a quarter of a century so far.
It's amazing.
And, and if my heart, continues to be strong, maybe 2 to 3 more years. Whatever. It's great. I feel very lucky about it. I mean, I'm always excited about it.
Well, you talked about people and attitude and great people and all of that kind of thing. And, this is going to sound like a promotion. It's not. It's personal experience. A lot of companies are bottom up. So they've got really good people at the bottom, and they're like, but don't talk to the management. They're a bunch of assholes. Sure. I will say at live events, it's a top-down approach. Like, really, the people at the top, goofy, wonderful, kind Mark,
great,
Steven, you can argue with him all you want, but the guy's a great guy with a big heart, and he cares about your family. And, if you tell him that your kid is sick or whatever, he'll ask you every time he talks to you, how's your kid doing today? Is he feeling any better? I've had so many long, just really human conversations with Steven and with Mark and with other people on the team. And I just feel like they're such a people first kind of organization. Like, they really care about the people, and they screw up just like everybody does. It's so easy to screw up on the moving parts, the people in a business. And, but I love that approach. I think that the company does lead by example when it comes to how to treat people and how to behave and that kind of thing.
I think you're totally right, and I think part of the deal is, like, Delicate was a family business. Gemini was a family business. Zenith to some extent. Pyrotechnical obviously is a family business. Steven Rocco. So I think what happened is we're a larger corporation, a larger corporate business now, with multiple tentacles, but we're still kind of run in some ways like a family business. Like, we still all, we call ourselves our sister companies, our brother companies, whatever else. And I know that's, common nomenclature, but like in reality, like, we kind of feel like that. Like, we sometimes, to the extent where we're mad at each other, whatever else, because we want to help or want to do something. But like, it is like, we are, family. Like, Daddy gets mad. I mean, every time Steven comes to town, I mean, he's got 10 of me, or more of that than that with QiCo and everybody else. He's got 10 guys that do what I do. Every time he comes to town, he calls me and we go have lunch every time. They're, like he's, in our vertical itself, Brian and I talk 5 times a day. You know what I mean? We all really care about each other and care about what we do.
But
and I think that's what makes it great.
The funny thing is, again, when there's bankers involved, it's different. It's a different dynamic. But even the bank in your case. So, Andy, Steven's partner, like I've had many conversations, both in person and on Zoom calls and stuff with Andy. The guy's a great guy. I mean, you could just talk to him like a regular guy, and he's a regular guy, and he makes decisions too. Like it's not like it goes to a committee of 12 people and they have to decide whether or not to spend the money or to acquire the business or to whatever. He just kind of goes, yeah, sounds like a really good opportunity. Let's go after it. And that's done. The boss just said, yes, let's go. Right. So that dynamic, I think, is really great as well. It's not like, some of these other larger businesses that have rather, aggressive, or what do you want to call it? I don't know what to call it, but companies that, would watch them burn, if they had to, like that are
it's
behind
all the P&L. It's all the,
yeah. Like you miss your numbers, you're dead to me. You're dead to me, Brian, So.
I think a lot of this stuff is like culture based too, which is
it
great.
is culture.
That's something
the right
that
word.
we really kind of push here too as well. And everybody's online in live events across the board. Just, if you got bad culture, bad things happen, and we really push good culture and get the right people in here and the right attitudes and everything. It's good.
Perfect.
It really shows.
That's where we need to end. That's a perfect ending. The culture. It's all about the culture. And I think you guys have it. So that's a good thing. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And thanks for being a sponsor of the podcast too.
Thanks for having us.
Have an amazing day.